Hey guys, it's Britt. I'm here with my friend Carrie from the Foundations podcast.
Yes, and I am super excited that we are. First of all, you were a guest on my podcast for the
Couple
last
years back and up,
couple
yeah.
years. Yep, a few different times, and we worked so well together that we're really excited to transition the Foundations podcast to the Complete Wellness podcast.
We're two friends talk about how messy life is with zero filters.
Exactly. So stick around. We have lots of exciting topics to discuss.
Yes.
So it's finally the weekend. I am so glad. It's been a long
Me
week.
too. I feel like it's been the longest week and I don't know why. There's no specific reason. It just was.
Yeah. It hasn't been a bad week. It's just been super busy.
Yeah, nothing bad.
So tell me the best thing that happened to you this week.
Best thing that happened to me this week?
Yeah.
I took today off.
Why is it good?
No, I think that I had the best thing that happened this week is multiple little things, actually. I had a lot of people talk about the podcast
Oh, that's cool.
when I was at the nail salon, and that was pretty cool.
very cool.
Like, bring it up to me. So that was pretty cool to have people bring something up,
Yeah.
that you've been working on. That was pretty cool to feel or see or hear. Mm-hmm. What about you?
I think the best thing that happened to me this week was I did a presentation last night, and I didn't really know what to expect. It was supposed to be on like holistic health and mental health and all of those things. So I kind of did an overview of like everything that I did and then let the questions go where they wanted it to go, basically. But it was for a group, Women in Education, Kappa Delta Sigma, I believe it was. And there's probably 25 ladies there that were some of them are still working, but a lot of them are retired teachers or whatever. So, but the best part about it was that when I was preparing for it, I was like, I'm director of peer and recovery supports at Step by Step, and I work a lot in the mental health field. And then I do this holistic health thing, and then we have the podcast, and then we have this and this. And
So many bits.
Yeah, so I was like, where do I start? Like, how do I just talk to a room full of people that have never met me, what I would say, right? So what I ended up doing was going back to my first book, The Crossroads, and I found the one little excerpt that was the first pivotal moment I had, like, now it would be 12 years ago, like when I started changing my life and changing my career and changing my everything. I got divorced. I started meditating at that point. Like, there were just so many things in my life that changed there, but it was because I had like all this chaos in my mind that I couldn't. It was actually a reading of a day, just like almost like today. It was in October. It was a little bit later in the year, but it was very much like this day. And it was a day that we went, my friend and I, my best friend and I went apple picking, and we took our kids. And all I remembered at the end of that day was that I had tightness in my chest and I had stress in my, like, knots in my back. And I missed the enjoyment of that day because I was too in my own head to even be present in the moment. And when I looked back on that, I was like, man, there's so many things that are encompassed in that one little paragraph that I wrote about, like, my physical health, my emotional health, how it's all tied together, about parenting, about relationships, about friendships, and about just so much. And my inability at that moment in my life to even focus on the present moment because I was too caught up in the past. And so it was just interesting to reflect back on where I was 12 years ago. And then also the other thing that kind of struck me was that, for a long time, that book, when I published it, I guess 5 years ago now, I didn't open it for a long time. And as a matter of fact, I don't even own a copy. I don't even own an updated copy. I have a couple of the earlier ones that I wouldn't give to anybody because I haven't weeded out all the typos and stuff. But I don't even have an updated copy. I had one, and I gave it to my son's girlfriend to read. And I think there's a fear a little bit. It feels like a past life. It feels like a past person that isn't me anymore. And then especially when it's people that know me well, I'm always very hesitant to let them read it because it's harder somehow to share those things about myself. Like the people that know me now, I feel like they're going to think differently of me when they read it. But
Well, they
then
shouldn't.
I know, and
They should be
that's,
proud of you. That's what when I read it.
I know, it's just a fear I have, I guess. But then recently I started doing those Monday morning
Meditations and stuff.
with the group in person, and a couple of those people had asked for that book. So I gave them one of the older copies, but I did give it to them. And so what's happened is they keep asking me to read from it during that workshop at some point, like a little excerpt. So I've been
back, right?
I've been a little forced to open it. And what I've realized, since it's been so long since I really have opened it, is that it's not so painful anymore. It's not so hard to look at those. And as a matter of fact, I'm pretty proud of the writing in that book. And I guess it's easier to embrace the fact that the woman that lives in those pages made me who I am today. And I'm not so scared about it anymore. I hadn't revisited them in so long. And the way that book was set up, where there were so many short excerpts that can really stand along on their all by themselves. It's just, it's cool to read like a page and just see how they react. A lot of them are really emotional readings. So it's definitely something that I would recommend anybody reading it if they're going through emotional difficulties themselves, then to work through it slowly, because it'll bring up emotions for them too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's been interesting to revisit that recently, and I feel like I've just been, like, it just keeps popping up. Like, for some reason, I need to revisit that.
Yep. The universe is going to keep throwing it at you until you do, so you might as well just do it.
So let me change the question I asked you. Instead of what happened the best this week, if you were describing yourself to a room of people that had never met you before.
Oh, wow.
I know, that's a big question.
That's a big one. Describe myself? Holy shit.
I know. It'll come to you.
I think that, there's the common things, right? Like, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm an entrepreneur, I think I'm a good friend. I know I'm a good friend. Screw that, I'm a good fucking friend.
Yes.
I'm compassionate, but I'm also firm and consistent.
Yeah.
Which is an extremely difficult balance to get. But to the token of what you said of your past, I would not be. We went through this before in a podcast 2 years ago or more when I was a guest on your podcast with work. Like, all the shit that I went through, it took me how long? 15 years to share my story of my past with my husband passing away and being widowed so young. It took me that long to revisit it, and I thought it was going to be harder than it was, right? So when I did it, it was hard, but it's weird that this is coming up right now. Fucking A, like you just said. It keeps popping up. Brian's birthday is next week, and I just had to redo my entire schedule for work for the salon and take Tuesday off. I didn't have to, but I chose to because I'm going to do that this year. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the day off and spend the day doing other stuff, But anyways, it's so weird that just came up.
You know what else just came up? You had asked me to change my nail appointment, which was fine. But before that...
Yeah, you were one of the people I asked to change.
Yeah, I know. But before that, I thought about you and the story you told about Brian because it's Suicide Awareness Month.
Stop it. Because on the way here from Sweet Emily's, I wrote down, and I'm going to go get my notebook after this and show you... Fucking universe, just making it happen. Sorry, that was probably loud, guys. But anyways, I have a note jotted down in that book right there that says we should do Suicide Awareness Month and we should talk about what I went through and all of that jazz, because I was just at Sweet Emily's and ran into an old friend, and drug addiction and stuff like that came up, and then Brian came up, and then I realized it was Suicide Awareness Month, and we're getting to the end of it, and Brian's birthday's next week, and he died next month, and all the things. Here we are.
And I have cold chills right now.
Yeah. Like, so who am I? I am a strong fucking bitch. That's who I am. Excuse my language, but I'm going to be who I am.
It's going to be a good response. That's all I knew.
I would not be who I am. And I wanted to say, when you were going through your stuff, saying like the book and how you don't want people to judge you and stuff like that, the number one thing I tell women across the table from me when I'm doing their nails, honestly, probably 80% of the people comfortably, I would say, should I bill my insurance for this therapy session or just nails, because we talk about that type of stuff and we talk about how people judge us. And you know what? The number one thing I say to everybody is what I was going to say to you, which you already know, and I don't need to say it to you because you taught it to me, is in reality, if somebody's going to judge you for that, then they shouldn't be in your life anyways.
Yeah.
Who cares? Yeah. Let them be who the hell they're going to be. Taking words from one of my favorite podcasters, let them be who they're going to be. It's just the reality of it. Yeah. Let them judge, because you would not be who you are today, just like I would not be who I am today if I wasn't widowed at 22 and didn't have to figure life out and go pick the millions of forks I had to go through, just like you.
Yeah.
When I read that book, I knew the minute I finished, I think there's probably a text message in my phone because I never delete them. I remember finishing it and thinking, all right, well, here we go. And I texted you and said, well, it makes sense now. It all makes sense. Who you are makes perfect sense now because of what you've been through. Mm-hmm. You're a phenomenal human being. And you would still be phenomenal. I think it's just you're made to be phenomenal. But the reality of it is you wouldn't be who you are if you didn't go through the shit that you went through and didn't figure it out. Some of the best people, all of the best people that I know, they could be buried 10 feet under, or however deep they dig it. Yeah. In reality, I could be, if I had chosen to take drugs or do other things instead of dealing with the pain the way that I did. And if you had chosen other things, we both could have. It was the opportunity was always there. It's always there. But we chose the right way for us, I do believe.
Yeah.
And I think everybody has the potential to do that no matter where they are in their life. I don't care if I had a 67-year-old woman sitting at my table the other day. 67 years old. She didn't look it, but she was 67. And she was telling me how her life is like kind of in shambles and all that jazz and stuff's getting hard. And I was like, okay, well, change it today. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, change it. You're not happy here? Move with your family down in Virginia. You're not happy here? Move wherever. Who cares? Go. Leave. You're not a tree. Move. You don't like your job? Get a new one. Yep. Totally fine. And I wouldn't think that way if I hadn't been through what I've been through.
Yeah. I was just telling somebody when I first published that book, I published it was right before COVID. It was.
Can you say the name of your book quick? I know this isn't a plug, but I think people, if you're comfortable.
Yeah, it's called Crossroads, My Search for Truth Through Music and a Lot of Red Wine. Mm-hmm. And I always love that title because 90% of that book was written in that old farmhouse when I was sleeping on an air mattress with my kid.
Ugh,
and I was sitting at my kitchen table. We did have beds at that point, I think, by then. That was the first.
We got a bed.
That was
by
the
then.
First purchase. And then this kitchen table. I was just talking about this kitchen table too. It's was my first purchase by myself, was this kitchen table. And I didn't have internet. I didn't have cable. I couldn't afford anything. We didn't have anything. Like I said, we slept on an air mattress for the first 3 months. But this was that winter, and it was a cold winter. And I can't tell you how many nights I sat at that table, and it was one of the high top tables with a stool. It was real dark, cherry colored kind, not cherry, but a dark wood. And so it was like a bar that would fold down or fold up into a table. And I just loved that table. It was the first thing that I picked out and purchased for myself. And so Will would go to bed and I would pour a glass of red wine and I would light a candle, and I would sit at my computer, and I wrote that fucking book. And I took all my journal entries and everything that I'd been through over the years.
Your songs.
And that was when I really understood that I had written a book. I didn't even know, because I just wrote my way through a difficult time in my life. So I never meant to write a book. I just needed to write to
and that's very
my
evident
own
reading the book. It's very clear in the book that you were not intentionally starting to write a book to me. It was like I was sitting and having a conversation with you, maybe because I know you.
Yeah.
But it felt like you were telling me your story like I was sitting, maybe, I don't know.
Well, when I was editing, that was one of the things that I was most important to me, was to come through as who I am, authentic. So sometimes I would go through, I actually had a friend of mine editing who was a teacher in school and English major and all that stuff. So she had edited, and she would write some notes. And then sometimes the grammar would be right. And especially when I did the audiobook, if I read that phrase out loud and it didn't feel like something that would come out of my mouth, even if it was grammatically correct, I changed it back because I wanted it to sound like me. That was my main
That's the point.
goal.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so what are you going to say? You look like you're...
Because that's why I like held my temples when you said the mattress thing, because that's something that I think our listeners don't know either. That's where I started too when Brian died. I had a 2-bedroom shitty apartment on Ford Street of all streets in Ogdensburg. Anybody who knows Ogdensburg knows you don't want to live in an apartment on Ford Street, realistically. You know, no disrespect, but you just don't. It's busy, it's loud, there's a lot of foot traffic in the nighttime, all that jazz. Same thing. I had when Tom and I met, I had an air mattress. That's it.
Yep.
I had an air mattress. I didn't have a couch. I didn't have any of that stuff. And then when Tom and I first met, I ended up getting a couch from friggin' Rent-A-Center. And that's what we would like sleep on because the air mattress popped and I couldn't afford a bed.
Yeah.
A 6'10" man and me on a couch.
Funny.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Brody had everything he needed in his room, as I'm sure Will did. Like, Will had his stuff probably, like his toys and all that jazz. And Brody did too, but I didn't have anything. I had nothing.
Well,
and I did drink wine, but I did smoke weed.
So your book would be called something a little bit different.
Yeah. It would. I wonder.
For truth through
through bongs and long nights, I guess. I don't know. Lonely nights.
God. So fucking funny.
I was always responsible, and I've never used a hard drug, but I definitely 100% utilized my natural resourses.
Well, so when I published that book back in 2020, it was right before everything shut down for COVID. It was like New Year's Eve when I published the book, so it was like just about to start 2020. Mm-hmm. And so I wrote the book, published it. I did have a book signing party, but everything shut down right afterwards.
Oh, yes,
I had that like weeks before everything.
Everybody was already scared too.
Right.
To be fair. Like I was uncomfortable working at the grocery store and stuff. Like it was already crazy. That was like the toilet paper explosion. Yeah. A few weeks prior to the shutdown. Right. It really was.
But so that book, I did the signing, and then it just sat for a little while, and that was okay with me. But then that following November, so there's a little section in the book that talks about music and when it kind of became something important in my, like I always had this drive to learn to play music, to write music, to all this stuff. Mm-hmm. But I was always afraid that it was silly. Like, what's the point of doing this? And my husband at the time would always tell me, I don't know why you bother. You're not good enough, blah, blah, blah. So those were the thoughts that always ran through my head. But my very first performance, I was asked by a friend's family. Her mother had actually contacted me, but I had grown up with her. And her grandfather died. Mm-hmm. So the woman that contacted me, it was her father that had died. And they asked me to perform an old Frank Sinatra song called Always. And that was the song that their grandfather used to sing to their grandmother. And so it was like a moment where, first of all, it's super high pressure. It's my first public performance, and my knees were like shaking the entire time. But
I imagine.
It's also the first time that I had stood in an environment where it's like, I'm at the front of the church, and there's not people like drinking and dancing and having fun like you're playing out at a bar. It means you're looking out, and every single eye is like on you.
Mm-hmm. It's no side conversations, nothing.
No, just it's like Carrie. Dead silence. And then this is also a very monumental, a person who's very loved. And so I felt that I had to do that song justice. It was like my job to do that song justice. And so I had a guitar player. I didn't play the guitar for that. I only focused on singing. He was sitting next to me, and I was kind of standing up on a ledge, and luckily there was a curtain kind of in front of me, and my legs were literally like knocking together, and he looked up at me at one point like, are you okay? and thankfully my voice was really strong, and the song went perfectly. Okay. And I had so many people reach out afterwards, and it was like the moment in my life where I was like, this is important. Like, and it's not necessarily that I'm the best singer or the best guitar player or anything like that, but it's about communicating with people, and it's about putting your heart and your passion and your purpose into what you're delivering. And so even though those kind of events were stressful in some ways, I also always felt that they were my best performances because it's like I go into a different mode. Like it's my job to communicate and to be there in that moment to convey some kind of message, whatever that is. It's it's more like I'm a vessel that it goes through and in those moments. And it kind of
That's
takes
exactly
over.
what it is, I think.
And then he threw, this is so freaking funny how everything works. But like then yesterday when I did the meditation, I did a meditation with our group at Step by Step.
Yep.
And we talked about the power of intention. And we talked about focusing your thoughts and your breathing. And I talked about the time before a performance and how I would do that and the benefits of that. And how, like they have their Christmas show that they're going to be doing this year. So when they're nervous beforehand, we'll practice that meditation and they will set an intention and they will focus on their breathing and they will make it very simple and just realize that they have the ability to control their, like be in control themselves. And just get used to it, you know, like get used to that feeling, that feeling of comfort, I guess, that will bring. So anyway, that was something that we were working on yesterday. But now we jump back to this story with me playing the song at the thing. So it literally was like I would say a monumental moment in my life. Like it was when I started saying, I can do this and I can make a difference. And it was really just life-changing, you know. It made me say, I'm not stupid for doing this, or I'm not silly for doing this, and I am here to make a difference. So anyway, I published the book. Everything shuts down for COVID. And then right before Christmas that year, I found out that one of the girls in that family that I had gone to school with, that I had performed at their grandfather, and then the grandmother passed shortly afterwards, and I did hers as well. And I found out that when I published the book, she was like, well, who does she think she is sharing her story? And my story is way worse than hers, and she's not anything special. And so I was like devastated, because this was like, I was like, if you had read the book, you would see that your family was like a huge moment in my life. So maybe to hear it from that person was even
a little more damaging.
And it wasn't directly from her. I heard it kind of through the grapevine or whatever. But it was devastating for me. And I don't think I opened up that book again for a good year. And I mean, everything was pretty shut down. So it's not like I was going to be doing a whole hell of a lot with it anyway. But when I did finally open it up, what I did was I went back to my intentions and why I published that book. And I was like, you know what? I'm not saying that my story is anything sensational. What I'm saying is exactly the opposite. Why I wrote this book was because we all go through these things. We go through the feelings that I went through when I wrote that book, and we all feel alone in the moment that we go through them.
It's very human, every one of us.
Absolutely. So my intention with putting that story out there was so that people didn't feel alone in their struggles. So that when
more of a support system rather than a poor me. Everybody.
Exactly. And so then I thought about it and I was like, that was my intention publishing that book, period. It was. And I had good intentions, and people relate when they read it, you know?
Absolutely.
Which is what it's intended to do.
People will either relate or people will judge, right? And 9 times out of 10, the people who judge are not, they didn't read it in full.
Yeah.
They just have their own, or at all, They have their own perceived, whatever. But,
and it's okay, because I did delete that friend on Facebook. But other than that, she wasn't really all that big of a part of my life anyway. And I think it taught me something to go through that. And it took me a while to come to terms with it. But you know what? I came out the other side of that story with a stronger conviction about why I was doing what I was doing. And I will dig my heels and stand up for that forever. And I am also not ever going to be ashamed of anything that I wrote in that book, or things that I did, or the person that I was. I wasn't freaking perfect. Nobody is.
Nope, none of us are. We all have skeletons.
No, and I was
Some of us don't care if
raw
people see them, though,
and vulnerable. And I mean, honestly, that book, when it was written, it wasn't written for an audience. It was written
for you and your journal.
For me and my journal to work through shit. So I didn't.
There's more to it than that too. Like you had if you're comfortable with me sharing this, which I'm pretty sure we're both comfortable with sharing just about anything. But anyways, there's a lot more to that journal than that. Like, you had it locked and hidden so nobody could read it because you were worried about people reading it.
Yes.
And then it became a published book. So that alone is massive. The fact that you had something that you had locked up, you had hidden, that was just for you, and finally you were like, fuck this shit, I'm sharing it. I'm going to share it. So you took something that you had passwords on everything. You had everything locked down so nobody could read it because it was so personal and so raw.
It's true.
And for you to share it after that, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's massive.
Now they lay all over the place.
And now they're everywhere.
Yeah.
There's copies of I have a copy right in that room right there.
Yep.
And the download on my Audible.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I just have had some really good times revisiting some of that stuff recently.
You should keep revisiting it because we should always remember where we came from. Because if we don't and we forget it, it's kind of like history, right? You don't want to erase history.
Yeah.
You want to remember it and you want to build off it. Who knows? Maybe there's Crosswords Part 2 in the future. You never know. You say no, but you never know.
You never know. It would be very different. I can remember the whole time I was writing that book, even once I realized when I was writing that book and I was actually working on editing it, I was like, I don't know how this is ever going to end. Like, how does it ever end? Because it's not like you're ever going to like get to a point where life doesn't have struggles anymore.
It's always going to, yeah. And maybe it turns into something. I always thought it was so cool that like your son and your kids are his kids are gonna be able to, and their kids are gonna be able to see where they came from. Yeah. That's important.
And when it was time to end that book, I just knew that it was over. And then that was the first time I took Will on vacation. I went in search of that last sunset in the Outer Banks.
Yeah, I remember reading that part.
Yeah, and I knew that I was looking for a sunset.
That's bold.
Because I wanted to end the book on new beginnings and what the future held. And I also, it was very important to me to show my son the ocean because he had never seen
it. Yes, I remember that part. Yeah,
and it was all about, I wanted him to understand like it made me cry.
The beauty of restarting.
When the first day we got there, we were standing in the waves and he was next to me. And I had been he was at this point like 15 maybe. So we're standing in the waves, and I had been telling him about taking him to the ocean. Like, I just wanted him to experience it. Like, experience the power of it.
It's amazing.
The beauty of it. Like, just the uncertainty. Like, just so much. It's so powerful, right? And it was just, I wanted him to know that there was a bigger world out there. And at that point,
as far as you can see.
At that point, he was really struggling. And I wanted him to know that there was more than today.
Than this little town,
Yes, than this little town.
And these little thoughts and judgments,
So that first afternoon we got there, we stood in the waves, and he reached over and he grabbed my hand and he said, I get it. I get it.
Aww.
And I was just like that was...
Chapter closed. Bam. And now Brittany's crying with Carrie. I'm not the crier, but I'm crying.
It was really...
huge.
It was huge.
Monumental.
It was just huge. It was really a monumental moment. And there has been other conflicts and stuff since then, but it's been different. That was the chapter of my life that was supposed to close.
I think that's where you gained a lot of your strength and a lot of your, not that you, and a lot of your confidence, your self-confidence, and like you learned who you were without being attached to those 10 years, man.
And another thing, one more thing about this book, now that we brought it up.
Now that it's up,
yeah, right? So in the book, the main antagonist is myself, right? Yep. So I have when you read it, it's like that's in italics, but that is the voice over in your head and over your shoulder telling you that you're not good enough and questioning everything that you do, and that voice that we all have inside of ourselves. There's nobody else in that book that is an antagonist except for myself. I'm fighting against myself. And when I get when I get to the end of that book, like that voice wasn't there so much because I feel like I had all these different parts of me fighting against each other. And I think once I got to the end of that book, I felt more whole. I felt more complete. But so when I recorded that audiobook, I was going through the reading and I got to the inner critic voice. But you can't distinguish it. Like it's different in the book, in the text, right? Because it's italicized. So you can see it. So do you remember?
I do, but I preferred the audiobook myself.
But so Do you remember what happened with the italicized voice? What I did with it?
You changed it. It was like up or down, wasn't it? What
No.
was it? Oh, Will.
It was Will.
Will read it. Will read
my
it.
son.
Yes.
So
Will read it. Yes. Yes, you did change the voice because it was a different human.
yeah,
But
because I just couldn't do it. I was like, it doesn't.
it was
make,
Will.
Yeah, and then
I think that might be also why I like the book
well, so the thing about that
or the audio.
what for a million different reasons why that was so important to me was that number one, that voice, especially going through like leaving my marriage and uprooting our lives and all of those things, that voice was always saying the things that I thought Will might think. Like, so that voice was like what I'm afraid that my child is going to think of me. Like, who am I to disrupt our whole lives? Who am I to make? Now we're sleeping on the floor. I'm making these decisions that he's young enough that he doesn't have.
He has no choice in the matter.
He doesn't have any choice. He just has to trust. And I'm his sole guardian. So he's with me. He's not going anywhere else. And he's got to deal with the choices that I make. So I think all of those questions that I had of myself really were questions that I was afraid that he would think. So then when he voiced it, he would have been late teenage years. And number two, his voice is really deep.
Yes.
So it's a stark contrast when you listen.
It was a huge difference.
Yeah, and I like that. And then another thing about that was that after having made all of those changes in my life, the fact that he participated in that book, and not only because he was mad when we first left, you know? So when he participated in that book, it very clearly tells me that he accepts and he will tell you today that we are stronger and neither one of us have any regrets. Like,
I was going to say, I don't see him having any,
In
not
the
that he's
moment,
told me this, but
yeah. In the moment, he was 10 years old, you know, he doesn't understand. He
No,
doesn't,
you're not gonna.
You're not going to, and he shouldn't because he's a child, and so we don't fight and we don't do those things in front of him because
he shouldn't understand the problems that are there. But now that he's older, he can understand, and now he knows what to accept in a relationship and what not to accept, and that you don't have to because no matter how hard it gets, you can end up on the floor on a mattress like both of us have, leading bad relationships.
Yeah.
And look at us now. Look at us now, man.
Yeah.
Look at our kids now. Our kids are wise, and our kids are strong, and our kids are smart. Our kids are going to do good things.
Yeah. One other thing with that voice that was so funny. When I did the reading for the book release, it was I had this inner critic. So what I had to do was find a way to do these readings in front of people. And I ended up having like guest speakers come and do the inner critic. And whoever maybe was involved in that one, I would have somebody that was a part of that come up and be, originally, I wanted them to be the inner critic.
Yes.
But what happened over and over and over again were people like, I can't say those things to you because I was so harsh on myself.
So hard on you.
They're like, I can't say that to you. My niece was like, and Carrie, I can't say that to you. I was like, it's not real. You're not really saying that to me.
It just doesn't feel right.
She's like, I can't do it. And so I had to swap it around.
And you were the critic
and
I was
the critic.
Okay,
and they had to just read the nice part. And it was so funny. They were all like, oh no, I can't do that. But Will
Isn't
could.
that true though? Like so many people can't. We have a hard time saying things to other people, but we have no problem saying it to ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that is a common theme with so many people that I have worked with.
Everybody I know.
We are
at one point or another, maybe not currently or, whatever, but we're hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
There's a podcast idea. Speaking of which, we should probably ask about that.
Yes.
Some ideas.
Yeah. So that's kind of what the point of was today. Get to know us a little bit.
Yeah.
But then talk about some of the plans that we have coming up for topics, right?
Yes.
So,
well, now suicide awareness, apparently. We're going to do one of those.
Yes.
And I think maybe we could talk about
and then
my experience with suicide for
and
sure.
we might want to do that first. Tuesday's a big day for you.
Yeah, maybe we could do it Tuesday.
Maybe we should. Maybe
I think that would be a good honor for Brian on his birthday. He'd be 51 this year.
And it might be a good day for you to work
52.
through some stuff with that, because it's always a day that you set aside to honor him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good day for you to tell your story.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something that a lot of people will relate to.
Yeah, I think more people relate to it than I ever realized, especially from, the last time the only time other than when we do that I've really talked about it.
Yeah.
In whole, like in full. Yep. So we're going to do that. And then what else? We're going to do perimenopause and menopause, right?
Yep, that was something we had reached out and people were talking
really
about.
wanted to hear about that.
Yep, so that's on the topic list. We are also going to talk about weight loss,
The stigma
medication,
behind it, all that stuff, yep.
Yes, medication, but also we're going to dive into a lot of other things about that, about like all the societal norms that, and the stigma and the judgment.
What's cheating and what's not, and what the judgment is. And yes, there are healthy routes. And something else that I really think we should touch on, and you agreed, we've talked about it, is, the difference between if you do take like a medication, for example, like the side effects of it. And then I've been doing a little bit of research because I'm really like big on this, like the whole weight loss and how you do it and how, all that jazz. And then the comparison of the side effects of having 100 pounds too much on your body, like weighing it out. And it's your choice. It's your decision to weigh it out. It's no one else's.
Yeah.
And who cares about the judgment? And you don't have to be secretive about it and stuff like that. So that'll be a good one too. And you're a health coach, so like we're both very differently involved in it. But we have a lot of the same ideas and a lot of this. But we do have things that conflict a little bit, I think, too.
We do,
a
little bit.
Which is good. That's good, because then you challenge me to do the research and see, you know what I mean? And then I think maybe I challenge you a little bit to look outside of the health box. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then we have a doctor lined up that's going to sit with us, so that we're going to have a podcast first on it. We're going to talk about some of those issues, and then we are going to ask the question. We're going to actually formulate the questions together.
During the podcast. And hopefully some of our listeners will reach out to us and give us some questions they have for the doctors as well.
Because the reality is no matter what the health risks are, no matter what the judgment is, people
There's always gonna be one.
doing it. People are doing it, and people are using it, no matter what
works.
they are.
Yep, I did. Look at me. I was 200 pounds at my heaviest, 2 pounds shy of 200 pounds at my heaviest when I broke my leg, right after I sat in that recliner for a few months.
Yep.
Now I'm at my healthiest weight, and I feel great.
Yeah. And I think the fact that so many people take medication and are ashamed to say it is something that right there needs to be talked about. What is it that makes people ashamed to say that out loud? That's because of our culture,
and our culture.
Judgment, shame, like
and
all
it comes right
of
from the
those
top.
things.
Like there are doctors, like I have women who sit across from, well, I don't want to get into this too much because we'll ruin the next podcast, but I have women who sit across from me that literally have said to their doctors, I would like to visit medication for weight loss. And their doctors say no, that literally, no, you're not cheating, do the work.
Yeah.
What do you mean? But you'll just give medication for high cholesterol? Why is that? How is that not cheating?
Exactly.
Do the work.
And really,
you know what I mean? Like, not to sound like a dick, but that's the reality of it,
Yeah. And it's a society that views being overweight as a lack of discipline and laziness as opposed to a disease. And that's the difference right there. And it's just wrong. It doesn't take into account any kind of genetics and
hormonal imbalances.
Yep. All
which
of
is
those
honestly
things.
what triggered mine, to figure out that I did have an insulin-resistant disease. You know what I mean? Could I manage that on my own? Absolutely. I could have. With a lot of fucking work that honestly, quite frankly, I don't have the motivation to do. I don't have, just like people who have heart disease. You know what I mean? Yeah, you could probably manage that on your own. I know people who have. But sometimes we just don't.
Yep.
If we could, everybody would. If it was that easy, everybody would.
Yeah.
It's just the reality of it.
And no matter...
And some people can. And fucking great for them. Yeah. That's fucking awesome.
And no matter what the health risks are, people are doing it. So we need to have a conversation about it. It's just like with suicide awareness.
Yep.
No matter how taboo it is a real thing. That's right now, and it affects so many of us. It's happening right now.
Every day, every second. I could tell you the statistics. It's crazy.
Yep.
But we'll talk about that at that podcast too.
But
there's a lot of big stuff coming up.
There's a lot of big things coming up.
A lot of hot topics, like a lot of taboo topics, like you just said, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Actually, all three of them are pretty hot topics, for, like, at least in the world right now.
I've received a few requests for some nutrition related, some kind of.
Nice, yeah.
I have done a lot of work on like nutrition and how it relates to your mental health, which is really interesting. But so we might dive into some of that stuff.
Yeah.
We got lots of
Those are good things to
different
tag
ideas.
into it. And that's what makes us so good is we're both, you've got that aspect and I've got the I don't know what aspect it would be, but life experience when it comes to the suicide awareness and mental health.
Well, you have experience, but you also work in a field where you have a lot of conversations every day.
A lot of people.
And you know.
And a lot of people open up to me.
Yep.
Without
and
me
you
even
have the
asking.
meditation and the mindfulness and all of those components that you base everything off of.
And my mental health was jacked after he died. I was a shit show. Complete shit show. Tried every medication that there was, literally.
Yeah.
But again, we'll talk about that later on. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff coming up. I hope people listen and get something from it. They will.
Yeah.
People will.
I did also add a little blurb on my website. If you go to it's totaltransformation.life. And there's a thing that says, a tab that says podcast.
Oh, is that what you sent me?
Yes.
Okay, nice.
So at the top, there's like a tab that says podcast. And then it has all of our episodes on there. Like you could listen to them through the website. I prefer myself to listen to them through Spotify or iTunes.
Apple.
Well,
iTunes,
it doesn't really matter. I mean, you can listen to them.
They're on YouTube too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did put it on YouTube. And the guided meditations on
seems
YouTube
clearer
as well.
on Spotify and iTunes,
Well,
right?
and what it is it's really a stupid thing, but when I go to my website or a website to listen to a podcast and you do it right through a player there, when your screen closes up, like goes into a...
Oh, it'll pause.
It'll pause.
Same thing with YouTube, too. You can't drop it down. Yes,
so it's
you're
super
right.
annoying.
That is so annoying.
So that's why I listen
you're totally right.
Spotify or iTunes, but
Because
whatever.
it'll play in the background if you're doing something else on your phone or on your computer or whatever, or in your car.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, if you go to that, though, if you go to that page on the website, the podcast page, if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a spot. I added a spot for feedback, and it has, like, tell us about your experience. It also says what topics you're interested in.
Yes.
You can send us a message. So if you want, we'll share it on Facebook and social media, and you're welcome to message us through that. But you can also reach out
a little more privately if you don't want to post like publicly on Facebook. Like tomorrow I'll probably, today, because you're listening to this the day of, but when I post this on my Facebook, I'm going to actually do what you did last week. I'll do it this week so that we can see for feedback from my following, and then we're going to combine them together. But if you guys don't feel safe or comfortable, I shouldn't say
you don't
safe.
have to put it out on
You're always
Facebook.
safe putting anything on our pages, because if anybody says anything... I'm a bulldog. It won't last for long. I can promise you that. But anyways, you can do it privately in any form. Both of us are pretty active on all that stuff, and we'll get back to you very quickly.
Yes.
And we really want to know like what you guys want to hear about, because we're pretty well versed in life.
Yeah.
Fortunately, but also unfortunately.
And like we said last time, we can sit here all day and like guess what we think are the hottest topics, but what we really want to do is have conversations and know what it is that people want to know about. And so,
or if you want to be a guest,
or
say you have a life experience or something like that, and you want to come talk with us, tell us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We love talking to people. It's our jam.
Yeah. So this was supposed to be like a little
10
5
minutes.
minute.
How long is it? 40. Let me guess.
I have no idea.
All right. I'm going to guess right now, and then all the listeners can do it after. I am guessing it is 49 minutes and 13 seconds. What's your guess?
I'm going to say 39.
49:13. Did you look?
No,
You
I
better
don't.
not
I can't.
have.
This doesn't have time. It just has like measures.
Oh, you're probably closer. I looked at my phone. Son of a biscuit.
It didn't feel like
Whoever's
almost an hour.
closer will bring the coffee next podcast.
Okay, that
Deal?
totally works.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
I want Sweet Emily's.
Okay,
Pumpkin
I'm in.
chai.
I'm in.
Little plug
but
for
I think I'm
ladies
closer. So
yeah,
it means Tim
so too.
Hortons.
All right. I'll do it.
All right. Well, we are excited to move forward with it, and hope you guys have a great weekend. And next week you will hear more about Brittanie. We're gonna hear more about her story, and we're gonna
a weird one on the day.
We'll honor Brian, and we will talk about suicide awareness.
Yeah, super duper duper important.
Yep. All right. Have a great weekend.
Yeah.